Best thing that they've done up until now. And I think really a lot of the good stuff that they have in the trailer are really callbacks to Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings movies. You have, for example, the Balrog, which just looks like a clear callback to Peter Jackson. You have some of the battles, they look like they're direct callbacks. So a lot of what you see that works in this particular trailer, all of it, I would say like 99% of it really makes me think about Peter Jackson's 3 movies. So there are actually 3 rings, of course, that Anatar and Sauron has no influence over. But already, and I'm talking about before the trailer, we have problems because in the first season, we had Sauron in the person of Halbrand around Celebrimbor as he made the 3 rings. And those 3 rings are actually the rings that have no contact whatsoever from Anatar or Sauron himself. So already, even before I get into the actual trailer, we have a problem from season 1.
Sauron sees himself as master of all Middle-earth.
Yeah, of course, because he used to be a follower of Melkor, who used to be Morgoth, and of course Sauron is originally a Maya. Okay, second season in, we're going to talk about the rings all the time. Okay, fair enough. And so for all the stands that are going to come in later and they're going to do the appeal to authority, I'm really very impartial usually with all my analysis. So do me a favor, skip the appeal to authority.
He seeks to rule it not only through conquest.
So yeah, I do think they kind of stepped it up and took it up a notch with the cinematography. I think it's pretty clean, and it's much cleaner than it was first season. So yeah.
But by bending the minds of all its peoples.
Okay, that's the new Adar. And then, of course, Adar is not a good person. So in case we kind of forgot from the first season, Adar is like leader of the orcs in the Uruk-hai, right? Or he is actually an Uruk-hai, right? And then, of course, we are to assume that the last ring that we saw is Nenya, which is Galadriel's ring.
And for that, he needs not armies.
No! Okay, so, of course, for the plot, Elrond is opposing the use of the rings, but, of course, unfortunately, we're setting ourselves up for another later problem because Elrond later on, according to the lore, becomes a ring bearer.
But rings.
And, of course, Galadriel is as excited for Nenya as Galadriel was excited to be around Halbrand / Sauron. And then I have to add, where is Galadriel's husband?
In choosing to wear those rings.
3 rings that Celebrimbor makes on his own go to him, they go to Gil-galad, and they go to Galadriel. So while it's not a good idea to wear them, they're not created by the sharer of gifts. They're not created by Sauron.
You have all become his collaborators.
Okay, in theory, I would have to say yes. In theory, the big picture, all of the rings, yes.
I know you believe this ring is deceiving me.
And hopefully this time around, you're not deceiving us. And hopefully this time around, you'll show us why the ring is not deceiving you.
But I believe it is guiding me.
And why do you get that impression? Why do you feel that the ring is guiding you? Where is the ring guiding you to?
All this may be by his design.
Yeah, it's by his design, of course, up until a point. So he's got free reign up until a point. But then again, both the elves and the mortals have a choice in their behavior, of course.
Rings may be how he attains power. They must be destroyed.
Yes, they must be destroyed, but unfortunately we have jumped the gun.
Discuss the rings once you have answered the question.
Who is this man?
He's basically a demigod. He's a Maya, so of course he's not a man.
He is no man.
This particular clip reminds me of the Avengers. That's what I saw. Some other people, they're going to say other things, but what I saw is harkens back, call back to the Avengers. My first impression is that these are some kind of ring wraiths.
Deceived me.
What is it they said in that very famous movie that the greatest trick that the devil ever pulled was teaching the world that he didn't exist? Wasn't that The Usual Suspects? And so I'm going to be repetitive here, but of course we had to assume the Celebrimbor has had his mind addled by some kind of magic spell that he cannot recognize Halbrand wearing a wig. I would also posit, to be quite honest, that really what happened is that this is going back in the past. So if it's not a flashback, then everything in terms of the order of creation of the rings is, totally off. But I'm going to assume it's a flashback. Either way, he's seen the Halbrand incarnation of Sauron twice, and we would assume that he's been magically fooled.
What am I to call you? A sharer of gifts.
Anna, gift, tar, giver. Anna, tar.
Our work begins now.
The creation of the seven, and those seven would go to the dwarves, and those nine would go to the men.
I have walked
Is that supposed to be an Easterling?
mountains and deserts.
Is this a callback to Star Wars? Because it looks like a callback to Star Wars.
My friend find his destiny. One the fate of the world may depend on.
Okay, not Gandalf, but actually Gandalf? Is that what we're doing?
Is it my task to stop the fire? Is it my task to face Sauron?
So would Tom be asking these questions? We just have to ask ourselves. If you think he would be asking these questions, it's fine, but it's just a question.
To try and cheat death?
So is the King of Numenor now dead? Balrog spotted.
Father, take off the ring.
So this subplot actually, especially, I have to be honest, consistent to season 1 and season 2, is actually one of the better subplots. So the whole idea that the ring affects Durin, the king, and in his mind makes him more jealous or more focused on holding on to things, that's the spirit of the effect that the ring has on the dwarves. So this scene is a complete and utter callback to Lord of the Rings. It's exactly the section in which Gandalf passes away in the Lord of the Rings when he's fighting the Balrog.
I'm afraid, Durin.
Is in peril. Will you abandon them to their doom?
Would Tom Bombadil be having this conversation with just any wizard, or is this just sort of like confirmation that we're dealing with Gandalf, but we can't say it's Gandalf?
What have you done to me?
Well, technically, Anatar didn't do anything to you. You could say, okay, Anatar deceived me, but really, did Anatar actually create all those rings by himself? Did he do that just because he's really Sauron, who was trained under Aule.
Leave Sauron to me.
Well, nobody's going to do that, Adar, because it's not like you're a good guy. Why would anybody do that?
Promise me, Elrond.
Promise you what? That you're going to find her husband and tell her that she was a good warrior? Promise her what?
Forgiveness takes an age.
Okay, that's fan service with the Ant wife. That's definite fan service. I don't know if that's good or bad, but...
I need your axe, old friend.
So I'm just going to assume that this happens later in the season. So is Isildur fighting with a spider? Of course, Isildur's fighting with a spider. But is this supposed to be Shelob? Or somehow related to Shelob?
Fight with our friends!
When the darkness falls, there are always some.
So I think it's clear overall, and I think I probably stated this so far in terms of looking at some of the trailers from season 2. I think they're really going for like twice or 3 times the level of action, which is a good play. I can understand why they would do that.
Rise forth and shine.
So those are the great eagles of Manwë.
You will give me the 9.
So these are the 9 rings that are destined for men. And of course, the 9 rings that are destined for men, the men who end up wearing those rings become the ring wraiths that, if we've seen LOTR, we're quite familiar with. Okay, this is pure MCU Avengers style action. So if you like what you heard, like, subscribe, give me a super thanks. And I appreciate you watching. And I'm out. Evil cannot create anything new. It can only spoil and destroy what good forces have invented or created. A quote from J.R.R. Tolkien.